Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Advisor Today's podcast, where we give the voice of the advisor back to you so that we can learn and grow together. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Suzanne Carawan, on this Veterans Day. Hi, Suzanne. How are you doing?
I'm great, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. It's Veterans Day. And I know that before we got on, you were telling a little bit of a story, or you were discussing a story about where it even comes from, or where the opportunity, so I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you do that. But we're happy to be here on Veterans Day and honor to all those that have served. So with that being said, Suzanne, who is our sponsor for today's program?
So today's sponsor is Life Happens Pro. Life Happens Pro, many of us are familiar with Life Happens, the consumer education arm of NAIFA, putting out award-winning content. But what you might not know is that you can actually, and by the way, all NAIFA members receive a curated version of Life Happens content to be able to put directly in front of their consumers and either create new relationships or to continue the ones you've got. But what you might not know is you can actually upgrade the subscription to Life Happens Pro and get a whole new way that you can automate your marketing to get in front of, again, new leads, new clients, tell the story, raise awareness for Life Insurance Awareness Month, Disability Insurance Awareness Month, et cetera. Our next big one coming up, currently we're in Long-Term Care Month, of course, the content is there. The next one we're all gearing up for is February and Insure Your Love Month. And so thank you, Life Happens Pro, for sponsoring today.
Awesome. So Suzanne, would you also introduce our wonderful guest to today's program?
I would love to. So in honor of being Veterans Day, we have a veteran with us. So we've asked Joshua Herrington-Vickers out of Indiana to be on the show with us today and talk about his career and where he is with NAIFA Indiana and all the pieces that he's playing today, and also a little bit about his military background in honor of all of those who served. And I'm going to totally take a selfish move on top of it and say that big happy birthday shout out to my own son, NAIFA member Jackson Carawan, who turns 21 today and is hard at work playing lacrosse and studying at the University of Richmond.
We can't wait for him to come into the business, Suzanne. Be a power forward in our world. So, Joshua, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super honored and excited to be here.
It's interesting. We talk about Indiana right now. Everybody's typically hype about Indiana basketball, but for some reason, Indiana football is
on the scene.
Quite the conversation starter, right?
Yeah, we have among our leaders, we have a college football chat. And so just the other night after the games ended, I just texted the group chat. I said, hey, who's number one in the division right now? And they said Oregon. I said, maybe refresh your Google search. And so it's pretty exciting to be here and to feel the momentum of everyone around us as Indiana becomes kind of a football town.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, Joshua. So bring us up to speed. So how long have you been in the industry? Tell us a little bit about you. And Suzanne mentioned the fact that you are a veteran, or you're connected in that space. And kind of a little bit about your story about how you ended up doing this business.
Absolutely. So I served in the Air Force. I graduated high school. I went to community college for a bit, and I was like, all right, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And so, all right, I'll join the military till I figure it out. And then I joined the military. I did my 6 years. I met my wife, and I was ready to get out, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I was like, all right, we'll go to college and we'll figure it out. So we went to college on the GI Bill, which is one of the best benefits that the military provides. We graduated college, and we still didn't know what we wanted to do with our life. And so we said, all right, we're just going to send out some applications, and we'll just kind of let God decide our path. Whoever says yes to Josh is going to say yes to them, and we're going to move forward. And Ryan Pinney at Pinney Insurance happened to be right up the road, and they said yes to Josh. And Ryan brought me in. I've only been in the industry since 2020, so going on 4 years now. And Ryan brought me in, and he had me on his application team desk, where We served advisors all over the country, and we helped their clients fill out the application. We coordinated exams. We did all the processing for it. And he saw me do that for a couple months, and he said, "Okay, we're going to move you over to sales." Had me in sales for a couple months. Said, "We're going to move you over to brokerage." And Ryan has really fostered my growth. And as he exited Penny Insurance and they were able to have a successful exit, he found himself aligned with Stephen Kagawa. And I got a phone call and he said, "Hey, Josh, you got to see what we're doing over here. It's totally different and radically different from what you were working on. And I'd love to be able to build something with you." And so I've been working at the Pacific Bridge companies for the last 3 going on 4 months now, helping to build out their United States brokerage and being able to wear many hats and be able to assist where I can.
So, serving in the military, share with us a little bit about, you know, the parallels of being an insurance advisor and or being an insurance advisor and being in the military. What are some of the traits that you learned in the military that make the financial service business a business that just seems to make sense?
Absolutely. So the Air Force has 3 core values: integrity, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And those core values are something that I still carry very near and dear to my heart, right? So if we're going to move forward, what Stephen calls Pono, I call integrity in everything, right? So if we're going to do something, we're going to do the right thing for the client, for the advisor, for everyone involved. We're gonna move forward with righteousness and integrity. I can tell you, we had a situation where we'd gotten some bad numbers, and we thought that there might be an opportunity for the client to 1035 their annuity and get better income if they moved it over. And then when we re-looked at it later and double checked, we recognized that the client's better in their current situation. So, okay, tell them to turn on income, right? You lose the commission, but you do the right thing, right? And that will come back to you tenfold. Service before self. The mission always comes first, right? Sometimes we're working on a Saturday, right? Because that's the right thing that has to do. We have a late deadline. We're going to put the mission first and make sure that we are putting service before self. And then the last one is easy: excellence in all we do. If we're going to wake up and we're going to come to work and we're going to clock in, we're going to log in, we're going to make sure that we're operating with the best that we can be, right? We don't have to be the best in the space, but we have to bring forward our best to every situation. So those 3 core values have served me in the Air Force. They've served me in my volunteer work. They serve me with my family to be a good spouse. They serve me to be a good father. And they serve me to be the best in the insurance and financial advising space as well.
So, where did NAIFA come into play? Like, you're already serving your clients. Then this NAIFA group comes knocking at the door and says, "Hey, by the way, I know you have an abundance of time, and we would really like you to volunteer most of it to our mission." So, how did NAIFA become an important part of your ongoing development training and also kind of a part of your DNA?
Absolutely. So, I mean, Jan and Ryan Pinney, right? They love NAIFA. They believe in NAIFA. They are NAIFA zealots, right? So anyone that joined their organization, day one, you're told you will be a member of NAIFA. This is non-negotiable. If you want to succeed and you want to remain in our industry, you need to be active and involved in NAIFA, right? But then I went to my first meeting out here in Indiana, and that's when I really became what I'd call a NAIFA zealot and really, really believed and saw and drank the Kool-Aid. Daniel Stallings, our current NAIFA president at the time, I went to Day on the Hill, and I walk into the room. I haven't met these people before. I just moved from California to Indiana. And he immediately comes up and with just the most personable person you'll ever meet and welcomes me with open arms and hears my story and takes me around and shares with me that for him, NAIFA is more than just the advocacy that we do, protecting our clients, protecting our industry, protecting our livelihoods. It's more than just the education that we receive from each other, but it's the fellowship that NAIFA brings. And I was in. We went to my next meeting, and then I went up to Daniel again, and I said, "Okay, how do I be more involved? How can I help grow NAIFA? How can I share the value of NAIFA with other advisors?" And so they said, "Well, we really need help on the communications committee. We need to make it younger. We need to make it fresher. We need to bring a younger perspective. We need to leverage social media. So he puts me to work there. And like you said, and when you have an abundance of time, NAIFA will help fill that spot. But I truly believe in the work that NAIFA does, being able to actually have a direct conduit with legislators, being able to go to the state house and be able to have those conversations and be able to draft the course for the future, as well as being able to give mentorship and to receive mentorship from great leaders in our space. That's probably the greatest value as NAIFA had given me is when I signed up for a mentor through NAIFA. Ann Baker Ron signed up as well, and we got matched. And we actually just met each other for the first time at MDRT Edge, where she'd been mentoring me for a year. We met every other week virtually, and she helped grow my practice. She was there we talked greatly on personal levels. And so the first time we saw each other, I felt like I'd known her my whole life. NAIFA's given me great friendships. They've given me great mentorship, but it's also given me a chance to protect and preserve our industry, which I think is super important at now more than ever.
Indiana. So California and Indiana. That's a
Yeah, how'd that happen?
So me and my wife both met at Effie Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, Wyoming. She'd just come back from Japan, and she got orders there where I'd spent my entire time. And we both got out. We both went to college. She gets a great job working for Riskalyze, and then she comes home one day and says, "Hey, I really, really miss it. I really miss being Sergeant Vickers, and I think I want to sign back up." And so I'm a little bit crushed because she was my sugar mama. She had a great job. She was gonna decide where we went and what we did. And now we're going back to the military. And so we were stationed in California at Beale Air Force Base for quite a bit, but she received an amazing opportunity to come and be a strong leader out here at Grissom Air Reserve Base. And so we took it. We packed up the dogs, packed up the car. We drove all the way here, and it's been such a blessing. Indiana has become a great second home to us, and we're so happy to become Hoosiers. I miss California. I miss my home in California. I miss the fresh produce a lot. But I really love the home that we've built here.
So she's still active duty.
So she is active guard reserve.
Okay.
So it's kind of this blessed middle ground that not many people know about. You get to be active duty, but in the reserves. And so it's really kind of the best of both worlds. Great hidden secret.
You hear about the conditioning and the mental fortitude of people that are in the military. And I sit on a board of a group called a not-for-profit called Healing Can't Wait. And, I get a chance to talk to some of the veterans, and they talk about this exemplary level of discipline and mental fortitude, right? And so to be in that space, how do you transition that into, I guess, volunteerism and bring that same kind of level of, the 1% of the 1%? How do you channel that kind of mental toughness and that mental fortitude to use it in a positive way, right? Because obviously you can use it in a not so positive way, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to take over the world, right? There's that side of it. But obviously you've chosen to use it in a very positive way. So talk to us a little bit about that experience. Like, what was it like going through it? People ask me all the time, I played sports, and they're like, "Hey, what was it like to dribble basketball on a professional basketball floor?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah, cool." But what was it like, I guess, going into the service, representing your country, right? And doing, that unique perspective. What was some of the things as you were going through, because you were young at the time, right? That you were telling yourself to kind of get through it, and talk a little bit about the mental toughness and just the physicality of it all. And then how did you push yourself ahead or to overcome and to excel and to achieve graduating, doing all the things now and now transitioning. So talk to us a little bit, take us back into the space. Like, so tell us a little bit about the mental toughness that it took and physical toughness of just, I guess, having the world on your shoulders there, right?
Um, well, one, I was Air Force, right? So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I was Army and Marines and the physical toughness was as hard as others had. But I would say from day one, there's a different standard set than than elsewhere. You walk in and you know from day one what's expected of you, and you're going to deliver, right? Because they kind of build you up early, like you are the few that raise your hand and we're willing to be here, so you will overcome and you will champion. And that kind of helps you get through basic, right? You're okay, we're all together, we're brothers, we're going to lock in, we're going to push forward, we're going to make it. But that, motivation wanes, right? And goes away over time. But dedication's a different breed, right? That's what actually gets you up in the morning. That's what makes you choose to be there. That's what makes you want to lock in. And so that motivation over dedication was something that I learned from Master Sergeant Tony Guitron. So it's my first week on base. I'm at FE Warren. It's winter. It's cold. We got volunteered to go move a giant commercial refrigerator from one building to another, right? This is grunt work. This is what a E1 is supposed to be doing. All the young guys are supposed to get up and move this thing, and we're gonna muscle it over. But Master Sergeant Tony Guitron was a crusty old dude. He's old, right? He had no hair. He wore his stripes on his shoulder, and you know what he did? He was the first guy that took off his blouse, got down, and started moving the fridge. And I saw that, and I was like, "That's a leader. That's a leader. That's the leader that I want to be. That's the leader that I want to follow." And that's who Sergeant Guitron was. Is he would never ask anyone to do anything that he wasn't going to do himself. And so I'm younger, right? I heal quicker. I've got more time on my hands, right? But I wasn't going to be outworked by my leader. And so I really learned from Sergeant Guitron that anything I do, I'm going to set the standard. I'm gonna be the leader that leads from the front. I'm never gonna ask anyone to do anything that I'm not willing to roll up my sleeves and do myself. And that made such an impression upon me that that's how I moved from that day forward. The mental toughness, Joshua's not that tough of a guy, right? But the leader that I want to be is going to be a leader who's strong, even if I don't feel it inside. That's how I'm going to move forward with purpose.
You mentioned a couple of things there. Expectations, right? I mean, you entered the military with expectations, right? You didn't go in saying, "Hey, yeah, we're not going to win." You guys went in saying, we're the bad boys, right? We get it done."
Yeah.
Regardless
And
of the branch.
phrase he used was "you will champion," which I love. I love the phrase "thinking you will champion." That's a great phrase. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, there's a couple of great phrases out of there that he just kind of dropped nuggets on. Motivation over dedication, because motivation wins. I mean, that I'm gonna borrow that from you there, Josh, and we're gonna use that. But because I think as NAIFA members, I think we have people that are motivated in spurts, and then we have the truly dedicated ones that sometimes don't have the motivation. Yeah, we've got a little bit of both in our
Got a little bit. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Josh. I'm going to kick this to him. How would you motivate? How would you dedicate the motivated, and how would you motivate the dedicated? Let's hear what his thoughts were.
I love it.
I think the power lies in reconnecting with the why, right? We all joined NAIFA for a reason. We all chose this industry for a reason. We all do things in our life for a reason. But man, does life get busy, right? I mean, this is the busiest time of year for some of our members. And it's really easy to lose the why. It's really easy to lose that motivation because life gets really noisy, and your motivation and your purpose can be lost inside that noise, right? And so helping others understand and reconnect with their why, I think, is some of the most important and powerful things that we can do as leaders. Brief segue into a story, but So we are the gas kickers here at Grissom, right? Our families, our spouses, they support the refueling mission. So we are an in-flight refueling base. And one of the blessings that they get to do as a key support liaison in my volunteer time is once a year they take us up, and we get to go and we get to see a refueling happen. And so I was telling the other volunteers why they need to go on this trip. I know it's a Saturday. I know we all have families. I know that, man, if Saturdays are such a special and rare time that being asked to go on base and then hang out all day and then go up can seem like a burden. But it's so important of reconnecting with our why, understanding why we support our families, why we support the Air Force family as a whole, why we volunteer. Because when you go up there and you remember and you see, like, we are the best in the world, we are gas kickers, like, we do fuel the fight. That is what we're born to do. And that's what we're doing here. And that's why our spouses go. And that's the importance that we have. You do that, and then you get that motivation again, right? You get to be able to remain dedicated because you get to reconnect with your why. So for NAIFA, sometimes, even with fellow members, it's asking them again why they joined, and then helping them pull that story from them of why they're here in the first place, why they're showing up to meetings, why it matters to them. I know for Kyle Sir, who's on our board, is his why is that when he entered a room, it's his best friends, it's the barbecues, right? I know for others, it's the advocacy. It's watching how NAIFA has, kicked down doors and battled for its people, and that's their why, right? And I know everybody's why is a little bit different. And so helping people remember their why and reconnecting with it, I think is a great way to refine that motivation. And the dedication, I mean, I think that comes from staying the course, from understanding the long-term goals, and then building the milestones along the way, right? Like, there are many things I want in my personal and professional life, and I can only be motivated about them when I'm excited about the idea, but I can be dedicated about them when I create small milestone goals that are going to help me feel like I'm still in the course. And that helps me cut out the noise. That helps me stay connected with what I want to do and how we want to get there. My wife's going to work at the Pentagon. That is our long-term goal for her career. We want her to help draft policy so that she can make the Air Force a better place for the people behind her. Okay, so right now we're in Indiana. We're kind of bogged down. Man, she's working 14-hour days some days. Some days she's working 14 days straight. And it gets hard. But understanding, okay, we did this. Now we're going to do this. And look at where we're at. And that long-term goal doesn't seem so far off. And we're going to remain dedicated to this path because we're doing the small things along the way. And we're taking stock in those wins. And that's how we're going to remain on the path. And that's how I've done it. I don't know if that works for everyone, but that's been very successful for our family.
Interesting. You're very grounded. My observation, is that you're very grounded, and that helps kind of stick to the principles and the basics of kind of your why. But also, Josh, I'll say, I wanted to be in the Air Force, and I remember I'll tell a quick story. I wanted to be in the Air Force. When I graduated from college, I didn't think I was actually going to play basketball anymore because I just didn't think so. So I had already pretty much signed up to go to the Air Force, right? And they were like, you're going to here's what you're going to do. You're going to see the world, right? And I asked a question along the way, like in like our third interview, because you go through the interview process or whatever. And I remember asking the question. I said, I just have one question. How long is it? What do I need to do? I gave an example of how I accomplished things in sports and how I was able to really work hard, outworked everyone, work ethic, blah, blah. And then I asked the question, when will I get to fly one of those Tom Cruise jets? And they were like, likely never. And I go, well, what do you mean? I mean, 2020, I studied 20, you got a perfect vision. You have to be able to do well on the math test, all the things, right? And then they told me, they said, not because of that. They said simply because that's a few people, but you kind of that's prefabricated. Most of that stuff you really can't be over. I think they said 5'7" or something like that. And they were like, that's tight.
No custom jet flyers.
Most of the pilots. So you know what?
No leg room for you.
I said, you know what? They said, though, you could fly one of those big ones, the aircraft carriers and you can do those. But Josh, my point in saying that was, I think every kid has a fascination with, I'm just speaking of the Air Force, right? And they're flying airplanes and like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. Well, I can speak to myself. And the people that don't want to go on Saturday, right? Because I know if I've studied this, or at least enough to be dangerous, don't quote me, but I believe like in midair, like you guys have to be going like a certain speed and you have to be like so close that literally there's like a thing that
The
sticks out of
precision.
one
Yeah.
into the other. And like you have to be able to connect it into like this like guiding system. Like, dude, that's insane. Like, do you know what people would pay to actually get the opportunity to actually see it?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think because you guys are in it, the other people, they take advantage of the fact, I've seen it 1,000 times. It's a Saturday, got all those other things. But if you were to call me, Josh, and say, Gandy, you can go up in an airplane and
NAIFA
watch a
fundraiser.
refueling.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't care if I'm halfway across the country. I'm flying back. I'm like, Josh, when we going? What time I need to be there, man? Like, I'm here. Like, I want to see it happen. And it just goes to show that we have a tendency to take advantage of things that we take for granted. Those things that are special, those things that are unique, those things that what's taken for granted for you, for me, may be a once in a lifetime dream or gift, and I think we as members have an opportunity to do something very similar. I think we take advantage of all the things that we know and all the things that advocacy does and all the things, like we take advantage of that and we say, oh, of course it's good we do those things. But to a layman person who has no idea what that is, I think we have an opportunity to really give them a once in a lifetime opportunity and a gift to do something pretty cool. Similar to if Josh ever calls, listen, Josh, phone, listen, you want to call me? Say, Gandy, I can get you up there on a Saturday. I'm there. I'm in Illinois, right down the street.
Right down the street.
Not that I could get clearance, Suzanne, but
yeah.
No, I think you raise a great point. Is we can kind of take advantage of all that we have. This is something that I really want to empower at least NAIFA Indiana to be doing, is doing better discoveries with our members, because NAIFA has so much on the shelf for them. We have so much behind us to support our members, to help build and launch careers, to help empower each other, to help do so much for them. But sometimes it's all there, and it's hard to remember all the pieces, all the things that we can do, right? And so my challenge to my other members is, let's do greater discoveries with our new members. Let's learn about them better. Let's learn about their practice. We do great discoveries with our clients, right? We do great discoveries in our day-to-day, and we know that discovery is how we find the true need and how we can provide true value. And we need to take that same model and bring it to our fellow members, because we are a member-to-member organization. We are driving value for each other. And so if we can do better discoveries with each other, and we can have a great understanding of what's on the shelf behind us, we can take things off the shelf as they apply. I needed great mentorship. I needed someone to help me move forward, help me see what I'm not seeing, and help me bring more value. And so NAIFA brought that to me. I know many people need different things, but NAIFA has it all. We are the one-stop powerhouse where we can help. You need marketing support, NAIFA can help. Life happens. You need better understanding of concepts and models. I guarantee you that the minds that are in NAIFA probably wrote the book on what you're trying to learn about, and they can help you. And NAIFA is a group of people, of like-minded individuals that want to make the industry better and want to make each other better. And we can tie each other in and help each other in a great way. We just sometimes forget and take for granted all that we have because we've been here. But I think if we do better discoveries, we can truly bring back NAIFA to where it once was and help it shine again.
Yeah, Josh, you mentioned the fact that the greatness, right, of just almost the moment, right? When you're accomplishing, you just remind me of something. When you're able to accomplish something that very, 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 very few get an opportunity to do, we overlook just some of the awe behind it, right? And we've got an amazing opportunity, not only just Indiana, but the nation, right, to collectively help the good of everyone around us, and then help our communities, right? Through the work in which we do. So Josh, you mentioned where kind of you started your career. Share with us where a little bit about your career now, your practice, what you're doing, and then ultimately your future. Where do you see yourself and down the road?
Absolutely. So yeah, I came in, worked for Ryan for a bit. He helped me build out a brokerage, and I got to partner with a bunch of great advisors to be able to help empower their practice. And then now here at the Pacific Bridge Companies, we're doing that again. And so my current charge and title is Director of U.S. Brokerage. But when you're at the Pacific Bridge Companies, you truly operate with the spirit of Ohana. And so where things are needed, you step up and help. And so I get to assist with amazing cases that the Japanese division is bringing, right? I get to assist on amazing things that others are doing. And so I really adopted this idea of no nexus, no problem, right? Where we really want to bridge financial planning and make it a global idea. We want to remove borders from planning and bring access to those who currently don't have it. And that's really where Stephen is empowered to drive lasting and meaningful change to the industry, is to globalize financial planning. And so I'm just super excited to be able to help fulfill that mission by helping other advisors see the opportunities that they might have had to have said no to before. My mind has been kind of blown every day that I've been here. It's such a wonderful team to be a part of. And as a brokerage guy, right, you talk to tons of advisors every day, and then you get tons of scenarios thrown at you. And then I'm learning some of the things that they're doing here that is different than elsewhere. And I'm like, in my head, I'm racking, oh, man, I said no to an opportunity that we probably could have done. And so it's just such a amazing team to be on, where the ideas and the collaborative spirit that flows forth is just opening opportunities that I would have been able to chase down before.
So talk to me about your path with NAIFA. Are you raising your hand? Are you helping? Are you on committees and boards? And share with us a little bit about your path in NAIFA, and then ultimately kind of where you're taking that.
So I started on the communications committee, and we built out our online presence, our social media, try to get more involved, try to reach and engage with our members in a more deliberate and effective way. And I'll also sit here and tell you that social media is awesome, email is great, but that phone tree is still super important. We are a member-to-member organization, so I'm always beating the drum of, hey, call your people. But this year I was asked to join the board for NAIFA Indiana. So I'm super excited to be on the board. And then now I'm also going to be chairing the communications committee. Chris Barthouse is phenomenal, and he's really graciously allowed me to take the reins and run forward. And I'm super excited to have him on my team to champion me and help me learn some lessons along the way. And I'm excited to work with him and bring some fresh ideas. Our board's gotten a lot younger this year. A lot more Yats are stepping up to bring ideas and to bring kind of the the passion and motivation and youthful spirit to our team. And so our goal there is really to re-energize and bring in new blood and grow membership is our biggest task right now.
So they collectively, that's for all of us, right, Suzanne? Right. Suzanne shaking her head.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Membership. Suzanne, your world, I've been asking a lot of questions. So I'm fascinated by, I'm fascinated by the Air Force thing. I don't care if you were flying.
Yeah, I did. Listen, I did not know that about you, Chris.
Fascinated by that because
yes,
I've seen, I mean, it's one of those things that as a child, you like, gosh, if I could ever do that. But I am curious, what was the hardest thing, Josh, about going through the military for you? I mean, everybody's experience is different, but what was the hardest thing for you going through the military?
It's one of the largest brotherhood organizations, and yet you can feel incredibly lonely at times. And I think that the mental toughness to kind of push through when your wife is deployed, when you're deployed and you're not seeing your family. When I worked in the missile field, and so you'd go out for like 5 days at a time, and you'd be away from home. And so one of the toughest challenges for me was navigating through loneliness, staying committed to what we're doing and why, and being able to kind of process through that. And I think that I see a lot of parallels in our industry now, especially post COVID. It can be a lonely place. There's a lot of us now work from home, right? A lot of us can work behind the screen. We can get locked in on what we're doing. And like, to come back to, it always comes back to NAIFA, but NAIFA brings me brotherhood and allows me to be less lonely and have a place where I can have peer-to-peer interaction. I'm in Indiana, but my office is in California. I might go back once a month, but there's still 3 weeks where I might not interact with another person in our space. And so NAIFA helps drive through that loneliness for me.
You know, I always thought that there was a unique parallel. I always thought that everyone in the military should come into financial services because it's way easier than the work they were doing with their mind, their body, and the work they were doing before. I have always said that there's some unique parallels between the two that make this business fairly easy because they're able to overcome the obstacles and think it's just part of the mission, right? I've always said that. But in my time, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. We went out and we recruited some advisors. And I'm thinking about people that come to the industry. We went out and recruited some advisors. And part of the challenge was they had extreme PTSD, right? And I mean, to the point where, we were like worried about the people, like they would go have apartments and they would like stay on the floor of the apartment like they were in the field. And I was like, are you okay? Right. And I couldn't quite connect with them to get them back to kind of the space. It's super sad that, super talented and capable people that didn't get the help necessary to be able to re-engage or level set back into the everyday work life, right? So how did you do it? How did you, like you mentioned the loneliness part, how did you transition? Because people ask me that about sports all the time. How did you transition from sports to financial services? And so you can get that same juice, right? That same kind of, out of it that you got, so you don't go through that psychological dip where it feels like the world is against you. I just want your opinion on it because I think it's important that we understand that, a lot of people go through a lot of things and we recruit people into this business and without giving them all the tools they need, yes, teaching them insurance and annuities and things like that are things they need. But at the end of the day, how can we better support? Understanding kind of just your perspective may help us understand how to support others who come into our industry who have a background in the military, that we could help them kind of overcome some of the stuff going on in their head and in their mind and some of the stuff they've seen, quite frankly.
No, honestly, we're going to get real here, Chris. I had a PTSD diagnosis myself. Therapy was life-changing and transformative for me. I had an amazing therapist, Rebecca, who really invested in me, and we put in the work, and she went out and learned about EMDR, which is a type of therapy that really works, well, at least worked very well for me with my trauma and my PTSD. And we worked through it. Like you got to be dedicated. You got to put in the work. You got to keep going. Sometimes it's darkest before dawn and it gets rough, but if someone is struggling, therapy is an absolute game changer and lifesaver. If you are a veteran, the VA has resources. Military One Source is there as well. There's a lot of resources available to you. You can always reach out to me and I'll help connect you with those resources. But for me, the therapy was so important for bridging that gap. I've had other friends, that have done other modalities of therapy, but almost everyone that has successfully transitioned from the military and kind of been able to make peace with their service and be able to look back on it with a sense of peace has gone through some form of therapy, or at least gotten a coach, someone that has bridged that gap before, someone that can help them walk through that storm, and someone has seen the other side. And so for me, right, like I always go to mentorship, right? Like I would go to therapy like it was the gym. We're going to work out, right?
Yeah.
We're going to work on this. Physical health, mental health, both kind of go hand in hand. So we're going to come in here, we're going to work out for 60 minutes, and we're going to go back out in the world. When I take calls with Anne and we work on mentorship, I'm working out for an hour. We're going to figure that we're going to dive deep. I'm going to get uncomfortable. She's going to call me on my stuff, right? And sometimes she has to, but having people who have made it through before and are willing to coach and walk with you, I think makes all the difference. But you raise a great point. And I think you mentioned something about some of your volunteer work is in that space as well.
Yeah, it's therapy is like mental push-ups, like a muscle, right? And at the end of the day, we have to be vulnerable enough, right? And honest with ourselves, right? So really look in the mirror and understand that we all have flaws and that we have to be willing to work on those things. I think having the opportunity to discuss just some of those things with you are super important. You're a NAIFA member, you're young, you're excited about bringing Indiana back to the glory days. You're super excited about Indiana football, which is, I think it's a unique opportunity, unique time, right? It is 11-11 and Indiana's in the top 10. I mean, so, Suzanne, we may not see this time anymore. So, so Joshua, I would tell you
next week it might be different.
Unique opportunity to enjoy it, and what is it? The Hoosiers. That's right, the Hoosiers. They're doing a great job. So, Suzanne, do you have anything else for Joshua before we speed off to the lightning round? You did mention, Suzanne. I did ear hustle some conversation you guys were having about an eagle or something, and that
I was just saying,
no
really
debt.
quick,
What can you guys share a little bit of it? You guys want to share that or what?
Just fun facts that came up, conversationally this week, which is one is that Veterans Day, really came out of World War I, and then it became a federal holiday years later, et cetera. But it kind of started there. But then the other piece, we started thinking about the fact that we were talking about how our belief is that the Americana stuff, and it's going to be a big swing towards all sorts of all things Americana very soon. And in doing that, we started talking about home decor and eagles and how people used to adorn their houses with eagles all the time. And if you remember going through small towns, especially, you see it all the time. Like houses were built in the 30s, 40s, 50s, et cetera. Well, come to find out, we looked it up, and the actual meaning of putting an eagle over your door frame was to tell your neighbors that you were actually debt-free and you had freedom from debt. So it actually has a nice financial tie-in, which who knew, right? So you could say, like, you've paid off your mortgage. When you did that, you got the eagle and you put it atop the door, and all your neighbors knew you had the freedom from debt. And that was like a very American, homeowner dream to get there. It was just a fun fact that kind of tied all in with everything we're doing financially and with Veterans Day and whatnot. And then I'll say, thank you for your service, Joshua, and with your wife as well, and all of our NAIFA members, including shout out to Ryan Pinney, who is in multiple branches of the military, and definitely did his time as did all of his family members. And for those NAIFA members who are a veteran, we want to know who you are and honor you. We have a special page that's now in the member portal listing all of our veterans, praising you 365 days a year for all that you've done for us and for our freedom. But yes, thank you very much, Joshua. We're very excited. I'm excited. You're going to be extension to the National Membership Committee. That's coming. You're already on it. You're already on my list. So, consider yourself in.
It was, I just want to say quickly, it was an absolute honor to serve, and I got a lot more out of it than I was ever able to put in. And
hey, Suzanne, thanks. That was the easiest enrolling session ever right there. I like that. I like the fact, and that's just coming, like you're on it. Yep. So it's an assumed close, Josh. That's what that's called. It's called the assumed close. Unless you tell her no, then it's a yes.
That's right.
Okay?
Oh no,
Absolutely.
I've learned. Suzanne texts me, says, "What are you doing Monday at noon?" I said, "Whatever Suzanne tells me." And so
It
yeah,
was the
if
best
Suzanne
answer
says I got to
ever.
be there, I'm going to be there.
Best answer ever. Loved it. It was like, oh, I loved it. You
Well,
didn't throw a
Joshua,
band on there, but
we
sorry.
appreciate you being here. We appreciate you being open and honest with NAIFA Nation. We are on all platforms. If you haven't heard Advisor Today, please Google it, look it up. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music, we're on some of everywhere. I think, are we on YouTube, Suzanne?
Yeah, we're on YouTube too.
We're on a bunch
Yes, we are. Yes,
So
we are.
with that being said, Suzanne, let's go to the lightning round, shall we?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, Joshua, have you watched any of them? I'm not going to put you on the spot, but have you watched any of the Advisor Today podcasts? If you have not, it's okay. But basically, long and short, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Those questions, I just want you to be yourself. That's it. Super simple. Okay. Don't overthink it, Josh. Whatever comes to mind, that's what you say, right? So really easy. Josh, what's your favorite food?
Lasagna.
Lasagna. What do you miss most about California IA?
Produce.
You said a produce. What kind of produce? Anything specific?
Oh, green peppers that just stay fresh.
Green peppers. Huh. Interesting. Josh, who would you say has been a mentor to you in the business that has kind of changed your life?
Ryan Penny.
Ryan Penny. Okay. Why Ryan Penny?
Ryan has fostered my growth every step of the way. He's pushed me to be uncomfortable. He's pushed me to do that next step and to grow. And he's been there with me and taken me under his wing. And also, he's kind of pulled me back from the ledge a couple times too. So when we talk about wanting to walk through with someone who's been there, Ryan's done that for me a lot.
Your proudest moment in the financial services industry so far?
That's tough. There's a lot of great moments, but I think that, and it's, the first time that my staff messaged me and said, "Ooh, I just had a really tough call," because we did client services as well. A wife called in looking for her husband's policy, but we had it and we wrote it. And I got to tell my wife that night, like, "Oh, I remember this case. I was on the application team and we did it. I'd gone to brokerage." But it just knowing that, like, we protected someone's family and we were a part of that process. And I kind of been chasing that high ever since, right? Like there's no greater feeling than actually being able to deliver and experience your purpose.
Right. All right, Joshua, this one's a little bit hard. Okay, so I'm going to ask, I don't know if you eat cereal now or you used to eat it when you were a kid. Everybody used to have a little cereal. So I was asking this question to couple of my friends. Your favorite cereal growing up, Josh?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. My dad used to eat it every single morning before he drove to work. And so it's just different and it's just special.
BTC. Yep.
Josh, you got to eat it before it gets super soft, though.
Oh,
It's like there's a mirror.
You
It's too hard. It tears your mouth up right before, and then once in the end, then you got to eat it right in between. It's like kind of a sweet spot. It's like you got like 2 minutes to get it done. It's a small window of opportunity, right? With the little things. And then, Josh, final thing for you is, two things. You could go back in time and have dinner with any historian, sports figure, past family member, anybody you want, or someone who's alive today and you just want to pick their brain. Question, who would you invite to dinner and why?
Ooh. I'd really want to ask my great grandfather. He was Army, Air Corps. He's the reason I picked the Air Force over the Army. They were really pitching me on driving a tank, but I heard a lot of great things about this man. And he died when I was 2. So if I could learn more from him and kind of know what was real and what was a tall tale that we just told each other, that'd be really great. Because one thing, I used to hear the story that he was a pilot in the Army Air Corps, right? No, I pulled his records. He was a typist, but that's fine, right? We learn new things. So I'd love to know what was true and what was maybe, pumped up after he left to tell a young man a really cool story about his great grandpa.
Josh, I'll say, hopefully they tell the tales about the work we did while we were here, that it's way bigger than the work we did, right? Hopefully we've inspired people enough that becomes the case. So Josh, NAIFA Nation is listening. Anything you would like to share with your colleagues, the young NAIFA members, the YAT members, the older members, the motivated or the dedicated? Anything you would like to share to NAIFA Nation? We're all listening.
We are a member-to-member organization. We are a member-driven and member-led organization. And that means that it takes us all. It's really easy to sit on the sidelines and be a fan of what NAIFA is doing, but you need to suit up. You need to get on the field and you need to be involved. You have a lot to give and you also have a lot to receive. And unless we engage and dive in with 10 toes deep, we're not going to be what we can be. And so I just ask that if you haven't engaged with the value of NAIFA in a while, if you've kind of been sitting back, if you've been on the sidelines, reach out and ask how you can be more involved, and we'd all be happy to help. NAIFA needs you, and we'd love to bring the value to you, and we know that you can bring value to us.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Suzanne.
Yes.
Follow Joshua there. So Suzanne, anything before we close out?
I'm going to drop one little fun fact that neither of you knew. When I was at The Ohio State University as a freshman, I was enrolled in Army ROTC. And it's the biggest regret that I have that I did not stay with that and serve our country. It's in the regret column. But yes, so there you go. Add to it. Yeah. So I really love our veterans. It's great.
Well, Suzanne, you are a soldier of arms of NAIFA, and we are thankful for all your service in many ways. And so are all the people who are out there listening. So those who are out here listening, celebrate our veterans on Veterans Day. It is 11/11. Joshua, thank you. One of our young leaders in Indiana, but goes back and forth to California. Suzanne, who works tirelessly on membership and all the initiatives. And thank all of you for listening to Advisor Today's podcast, where we give you back the voice of the advisors around the country so that we can all collectively be better for our communities. Thank you for tuning in today. And as Josh said, there's the motivated and the dedicated. The motivation wanes. So check your motivation. And like Josh said, put on your suit. It's time for us to go to work. And so we look forward to seeing you next time on Advisor Today. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.